Welcome to All in Yellow,
the official Norwich City podcast. Hello and welcome to the All in Yellow podcast. This week's episode features one of Norfolk's real sporting stars, multiple wheelchair tennis Grand Slam champion, and of course, huge City fan, Alfie Hewett. Well, here we are, joined by the man himself, Norfolk's own Alfie Hewett. Alfie, how are you doing?
Thanks for having me, Dan. I'm doing well. Yeah, I just got back from Rotterdam last night, so I'm just getting over the last bits of quite a busy start to 2021.
It's been a hectic start for you, what with Australia and then the tournament last week in Rotterdam, which we'll touch on. How has the start to the year felt for you?
It's been good. Like I can't really complain when it comes to the performance side of things. Obviously, going out to Australia is quite the privilege at the moment. Gearing up for that, I was obviously really set on Oz Open being the big one of the start of the year, which is an amazing slam to be a part of, and everything going on in the world right now to actually be able to do my sport, to carry on training, and then compete and fly to Melbourne, which is not a bad place to be for a month or so. It really was quite the opportunity, and came back with a doubles title with Gordon Reid, which last year was a big one for us because it was the first time that we'd gone there and actually taken a title, which as a player, a Grand Slam doesn't get much bigger than that. So to do that, but I had my eyes set on the singles this year and missed out on that by a few points. So I was a bit gutted, but to come back within a week, turn it around and go again in Rotterdam, which was still a big tournament to go and play. And I beat the guy actually that had me in the final there in Melbourne. So it was a bit of a sweet revenge.
Well, travelling like that seems like a distant dream for most of us at the moment, Alfie. You're a lucky lad. Were you part of the great Australian Open quarantine that we were seeing so much about on the news?
Yeah, I know. It's like my favourite trip in terms of locations is but to get there, it's the longest journey ever. But no, I mean, we were looked after pretty strictly by the Australian government. It was a unique experience. Obviously, leaving the UK, we all had to go to specific locations where they had chartered flights ready for us. And then I think it was only like 20% of the plane was allowed to be filled up with staff and players and officials. And then we all headed off to Melbourne, and as soon as we were off the plane, we were all sent on specific transports and go straight to the hotel, straight into testing. And then from there on, so we got to our rooms like 3 a.m. in the morning, and we didn't leave the room for 5 or 6 days. It was the Grand Hyatt, so once again, I'm making it sound like it was bad, but it's not a travel lodge. It's a nice 5-star hotel in Melbourne. So we were looked after pretty nicely. And then for the rest of the 2 weeks, we were allowed to go out for about 5 hours a day. But once again, it was really, really strict and monitored quite highly because they have very, very few cases out there in Melbourne. So we weren't maybe the favourites with the locals at the time because there was a few cases. But once that all got put under the radar and the tennis got going, so that it seemed like it was worth it in the end. To be able to go over there and play 2 weeks quarantine, we still could train for a few hours a day. You still had the gym. Yes, it was unique and it was a different sort of experience, something that I've never done before, and I don't think I'll probably ever do again. But that's part of the whole package, really. And I enjoyed it. Like, yeah, it was tough in some moments, and like everyone going through this pandemic right now, it's not your normal routine. It's not your normal structure. You have to find a different way of going through your day, and that's all it was, going out there and changing my routines a little bit. But everyone was doing the same. I think you saw some Instagrams and videos from people who were putting mattresses up like against their windows and doing volley drills. And I had my coach next door, so I was banging the door and the backhand volleys for quite a while, so I drove him insane. But you just have to do those sorts of things to keep everything ticking.
You look like you benefited from a sharp haircut as well. That's another luxury that few others.
I was actually one of the players that did that.
Really? Okay, yeah, no, he's done a great job.
I've done a good job, right?
Yeah, you're looking sharp. So I guess Norwich City fans, they'll probably be aware of you. You know, people are aware of Norfolk sport, aware of your career so far. But do you want to give us a little rundown? I know obviously you've added to your list of Grand Slam titles recently at the Aussie Open, but for those who might not have been following your career, just give us a rundown of what you've achieved at the age of, what are you now, 23?
23.
Scary.
I feel like I've been in the game for a long while now, which maybe I have, because I started when I was about 9 years old, I want to say. So I got into it purely just from a social point of view. I got diagnosed with my disability at 7. I think I was probably struggling a little bit with life and finding a little bit of joy in it. And so sport was my massive go-to before the disability. And I never knew that Paralympic sport was such a thing, or if there was anything locally that I could even go to and compete. So my family done a good bit of digging, and they sent me off to Stoke Mandeville, which is the hub for like Paralympic sport. I think it's where the games was actually first held in the UK or even worldwide. So it's a big hub for that sort of thing, getting involved with people with disabilities, getting involved with sport. So I went down there, and it was like a come try session on pretty much every sport you could do. You had a list of things that they put on for the weekend. You'd stay there, and I picked tennis, basketball, and archery. And I think I've done a lot of other sports as well that I can't even remember right now. But those were the 3 sports that I remember playing. And I was like, okay, this is something that I enjoy. It's not quite football, because I was a keen footballer before the whole disability. That's kind of where my passion for football starts. But obviously having that taken away from me, I had to go down a different avenue. And for me, it was those 3 sports. And I came back to Norfolk, and there's a couple of centres kicking about and a couple of coaches that were willing to give me a go at the time. First off was Derek Perry at Limetree. They run like a disability group every Wednesday evening, I think it was, and it was just for fun, just for social, to get back to be active, to be doing things. And there's so many benefits, obviously, that can bring getting back into sport. And so for me, getting into tennis, it was never about getting to the elite level. That was just something that I think happened naturally along the course of my career. And then obviously kicked on into the juniors, started to train a little bit more, started to compete a little bit more. And I think my first real significant event was at the World Junior Masters, which was the top 8 in the junior rankings at the time. And I'd never played in front of a crowd before, never really traveled that much before that. And I'd played this Argentinian player about 3 months beforehand. And for anyone that knows tennis, I got done 6-love in about 30 minutes. Not a pretty match to remember. And I got to the final, and I was playing the same guy in front of, I think, 3,000 French fans, breaking it.
Wow.
I think I was a set and 5-2 down and had match points. And I came back, won it 7-6 and won the third set, I think 6-3 or something. And that was kind of like the first real massive win that sticks in my head because of the odds that were against me. I was like back against the wall, and to kind of come back from that is probably where it all really started for me. And that was around London 2012 as well. So obviously everything was kicking off with the Olympics and the Paralympics. And, I came into it at a really good time.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how you started there, because I think you'll be aware, because I believe your sister played a bit of football as well, but the football club's Community Sports Foundation, who I'm lucky enough to work for, do a lot of work helping people get into sport, people with disabilities who might not have had the chance otherwise. Why is that so important?
It's important for everyone, whether it's whether you're disabled or whether you're not disabled. I just think sport is such a great avenue for mental health. I think for me at the time, that was a massive part of it. I had been on my feet for 6-7 years, loved playing football, was the popular kid in school, really athletic, really competitive, and having that curveball in life, put a massive challenge, and mentally I struggled. I think any kid would at 7 years old, being told that they had to be in the chair, and a complete new way of life, and obviously struggling with that, and sport was my outlet. So I think having those opportunities and for people to be aware of that, it's what helped me bounce back in life. It gave me a purpose. It gave me confidence again. I struggled socially with being in a chair. Felt like I was different from the rest of them, and all those kind of stereotypical perceptions happened. And so sport was my time where I could just completely forget what it was like, and just be Alfie Hewett, the kid that I was, probably a little cocky kid, playing sport at the time. So that's what it was. And so anyone that is thinking about it, I can't encourage it enough. And the platforms have got to be there in place to start with. You guys have done an amazing job of seeing the work you've done, and I was part of that. And I remember the days going in the UEA. I think it was there was a few different ones at the time, and I loved it. It just I made new friends, and I had new experiences, and gave me a good purpose.
Now, I think the last time I had a chat with you, we were talking about a potential new rule change in wheelchair tennis that might curtail your career. Is that still the case?
Yeah. At the moment, it's in a bit of a limbo with the decision and what's happening. So, I mean, to give maybe a bit of a bit of background, a couple of years ago now, the ITF, alongside the IPC, so the International Paralympic Committee and the International Tennis Federation, they had a bit of a decision around the criteria about eligibility for wheelchair tennis. Previously, anyone getting into the sport would have to undergo medical examinations and pass all tests to be able to play the sport. For some reason, which I'm not really sure why, they've decided to change that criteria. And it's a little bit different to what it usually was beforehand. So yeah, a couple of years ago, all the players went under this new assessment, and I unfortunately fell under this bracket where I was unable to compete. So technically, right now, I'm still eligible to play because of the decision that the ITF made, which was to extend that period until the games was finished. So even though the decision was made 2 years ago, they, out of kind of principle, I would say, because the 4-year cycle takes a lot of money, takes a lot of training, takes a lot of effort. And I think they are really good in the respect that they could see how much work has been done. And so they made this agreement with the IPC that we could carry on until the games was finished. So that's why last year was a bit of a tough year mentally, because that's what was on the horizon was a potential career ender for me, which I've always been dedicated to tennis. It's what I've done since I was a young kid, and probably since the age of about 12. It's all I dreamed to do, was to compete, was to be at that top level, and live that lifestyle. And that's what I trained and sacrificed to be able to do. So I struggled a lot mentally last year with that, but kind of channeled it in a way that it didn't impact performances so much. And then with the games obviously being pushed back to the following year, it meant the decision was pushed back to the end of this year, so 2021. So at the moment, that's it. Like, there's a lot of behind the scenes work going on with the whole classification. It's a very wide topic to be able to nail down, and I think there could be some changes in the next few months, which I'm being told. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for that. But at the moment, I'm focusing on what I can do in the present, which is to try and play the best and take as many titles as I can before they potentially kick me out. So
let's keep fingers crossed that perhaps something changes in that department, because at the moment you're literally going into every tournament and having to attack it with the mentality, okay, this is the last time potentially that I'm going to play here, each and every time. So what have you set yourself in terms of goals for the year? that you want to achieve, if that is the case?
I mean, it's a difficult one because last year I think I learned a lot about how to approach the events. I remember in Australia, not knowing that what was around the corner, I lost in the semi-final, and I was back in the changing rooms, and it's very emotional. You kind of start thinking this is the last time that I'll be in these locker rooms, the last time I'll make the trip. Everything that you do, it's like this is the last time, and I think I struggled with that. Whereas maybe because I've kind of been through that, and then then it gets extended, and I'm back again. This year it didn't kind of have that same effect. It was more like, right, I'm actually very fortunate to have this opportunity. Let's not necessarily cry about it. Let's go and get it. Let's be hungry for it. Let's be determined and motivated, and that's kind of how I've approached it. Because all I can do at the moment is just pray that something's going on in the background, and when it comes to the decision, whether it's the end of this year or middle of this year, that if it goes in my favour, then I can carry on and I don't look back at it. I think my biggest regret would be if was to end the year and not have achieved what I could have achieved because I had this thing overhanging, having this thing come follow me everywhere I go, the last here and the last there. I don't want that. I don't want that to be an excuse. If it is my last year, I want to enjoy it as much as I can, and just have a strong mentality with the whole situation. And I think it's given me a massive drive as well. Like this adversity to my life and another change in direction, which is not my decision. It's definitely given me a new sense of freedom out there, because I can go out there and I feel like I have to hit out and I have to play the way I want to play. Because if I have this tension, I have this emotion attached to me, then everything just gets very clouded. And to try and separate all that, it's not easy, but it's actually probably helped me along the way in some strange way.
Whatever happens, you have experienced some things that most of us can only dream of. You've met people, you've seen places. I mean, you've won Wimbledon, Alfie. The treatment you get at Wimbledon, for example. What are some of the things that you'll remember from your tennis career, if it finishes this year or if it finishes in 10 years?
So much. So much. Like, I'm quite a reflective person anyway, so from time to time I do look back at whether it's the year or the years leading up to it. But it's such a long journey, to get to where I have now wasn't an overnight thing. Anyone who's in or around sport knows that to be able to get to the top, it takes years of training, highs and lows, money, effort, resources, like all of that. I started when I was 8-9 years old, and 15 years on, I'm kind of hitting the peak of my performance, and that's how long it's taken. Tennis is I know you play as well. So tennis it's not an easy sport. It's very complex, and it's not as simple as running from here to here as quick as you can. There's so many other elements and skills that are needed physically, mentally, emotionally, to be able to really perform when it comes to the big occasion. And I think that's what I've learned over the years, and not only self-development, but of course I have special moments. The Paralympics was probably one of the best. Going there in my first games in Rio, and being, I think, 13th in the world, which is good, but I don't think anyone outside the top 6 had ever won a medal. And I think anyone going to their games for the very first time had won a medal as well. So I wasn't expected to do well. But I defied that, and I got 2 silvers, and that was probably one of the most memorable experiences. The Paralympics is an incredible event, like, to be a part of anyway. So they definitely rank highly in my memory bank. But like you said, Wimbledon, it's another level. Being there, home favorite, home crowd, everyone on the side drinking Pimm's, which is quite a distraction when you're trying to play. It's a great day. I love it. My family gets to be there as well, because see, being away traveling, it's not always easy for them to come and watch live. So most of the time they're stuck behind the TV watching it. So for everyone to come down, those are probably the memories that I'll treasure.
You're just describing the joys of experiencing live sport there. It's something we're all missing very much at the moment. But
Yeah.
Alfie, obviously, the reason we've got you on the Norwich City podcast is you're a Norfolk boy, and you're part of our Norfolk sporting landscape. First of all, let's talk about home and the area. What is it that makes you proud to be from Norfolk?
It's a fine city, isn't it?
Well, yeah, everyone knows that. It's on the
Hey,
signs.
everyone knows that. Yeah. No, it's I just like the sounds very Norfolk, but the peace and quiet about it all is real, especially where I live. I live out in the sticks in outside of between Norwich and Yarmouth, out in the sticks. So I've kind of experienced the isolation of what Norfolk can bring. Geographically, when you're trying to play sport, it's maybe not the best places to be. And I've certainly had to travel far and wide to be able to do what I do, but to then come back and be in Norfolk and have the countryside to relax and the beaches. That's definitely my favourite parts of coming back to the area.
And you said that as a youngster, you loved your football, you loved playing your football. Was it Norwich City right from the start for you?
Yeah, always. I played football myself. It was like my dream to become a footballer. All I ever wanted to do was be a footballer, and I played for this little side in Norwich called Lakeford Rangers when I was a kid.
Good side on their day,
yeah. Yeah, and was a goalkeeper at the time, and don't think that would have ever pursued because of my height now. I'm 5'6", so that never would have actually materialized. But I loved it. It was my passion. It was everything that I wanted to be. So that's probably where it all started, and my love for football. And then, I've just clung on to the local team, which is Norwich City, obviously. Played with and against, actually. Remember, I was speaking to my mum a few weeks ago, and she was saying, because she was watching one of the matches, and she's like, "Oh, is that Todd Cantwell?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "You used to play against him when you were in your team." Yeah. She was like,
Did you remember that?
I don't remember that. No, I was like 6, 7 at the time. She was like, "Yeah, you played against him." I was like, "No way." That's obviously a pretty cool thing to say. She said he was good at the time, so he clearly levels above everyone else.
So is that a family connection? Are the family Norwich City fans?
No, not really. My dad's a Liverpool fan, so tough times for him.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, my brother, he's a big Norwich supporter, but I will set him out now because he actually used to go to the games in a Chelsea shirt. There was a period where he was one of these, I don't know, trying to chase the fame sort of thing, and he was like 6, 7 years old at the time. We'd go to the games, he'd have his coat on, but he'd have his Chelsea shirt on underneath. But he's now a loyal fan, so I can say that he's converted to yellow and green blood.
And he's also got a claim to fame in that I think he was the last successful contestant at the Tampa Bay halftime challenge. Is that right?
I think, yeah, he won't shut up about that. He was the hero when it came to that. I tell you, he was in the gym for about 3 hours before that, trying to bulk up, because I told him obviously who he was up against, and he went and done the business on Chris Stocker there, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He took out another local tennis coach. But, I mean, that's high pressure, Alfie. It's all very well winning Wimbledon, but sticking on a Zorb at halftime at Carrow Road, like, your brother now knows what pressure really is.
I think that's the best home game he'll ever go to. And we got the win as well on the day.
Exactly.
All he cared about was that first hit. It's all he kept talking about. He's like, I just want to make sure that first hit, he goes flying back into the Jarrell or something like that.
Just wanted to end up on social media. Well, he did a good job.
I think he wasn't. I think he got on Sky, didn't he, in the end?
He did, yeah.
That was his moment.
So can you remember your early experiences of Carrow Road? Can you even remember your first game? Is that a big ask?
It is all a little bit of a distant memory. I got my first season ticket around when I was 8, 9 years old. So I think we were in the championship at the time. And it was in a period where we were in the championship for quite a few years. And then all I remember is actually I think we got relegated into League One. And that's when I really started that's when I can remember really paying quite a big interest in Norwich and following them. And ever since then, I've been glued to it.
So who were some of your Norwich City heroes? So you're talking 2009, I guess, then is when we started in League One and worked our way back up to the Premier League.
That's when we got like Grant Holt, and we started Simeon Jackson.
Yeah, they were big at that time.
Yeah, they're obviously back in League One. I remember Ollie Johnson. That's the one match that I really remember. I was like walking around Norwich with my MP3 player, I think it was, and we were playing Yeovil Town. I think he bagged a couple of goals in that match. That's like a random memory to have, but yeah, it was back in those days.
I was expecting you to say Grant Holt.
Yeah, Dion Dublin.
Dion Dublin, yeah, Taylor, yeah. Or on the early stages of that period, yeah.
Yeah. Russell Martin and those sorts of guys.
Have you ever met any of your Norwich City heroes?
Yeah.
Past or present?
I mean, we did quite recently, Grant Holt and Russell Martin did like a bit of a game show in the Open. I think it was Never Mind the Danger. It was just like it was a bit of a spin-off of a League of Their Own sort of thing, and they had a couple of guests, and I managed to get on there. I mean, just funny guys, like Russell Martin, top man, Grant Holt also, obviously, but just good. Like the knowledge of the game, was incredible. Like, I'm a fan. Yes, when I watch Norwich, I'm a fan. I'm not really a know-it-all when it comes to the tactics and the styles of play. I just love watching it, and I'll get behind them. And just to hear the ins and outs of their football brains was really intriguing.
Do these guys take an interest in your career when you get to spend some time with them? I think I saw Tim Krul post something on Instagram.
Yeah. Timmy Krul stepping up. It's I think obviously with the local connections and being in the area, it's given me a little bit of a following, which is great. You know, Norwich means a lot to me. The team, it's probably my biggest passion outside of doing what I do. So to have the guys pay an interest, I'm a little bit like a fangirl when it happens. I'm like screenshotting it, sending all my friends. Like, no way, Timmy Krul's posted on my Instagram. No, it's great. It's great for them guys.
So your memories, because you're so young, your memories of Norwich City starting around that time in League One, you've had a heck of a ride over the last decade. Promotions, relegations, you've had the lot.
I know. I think we obviously labelled the yo-yo team. I love it. I think it gives the fans something to get into. I just wouldn't want to be from a spectator point of view. I think being a fan, you get so involved with it. I just don't think if we were like floating around mid-table year in year out, it'd be fun. Like the relegation, the battles, or the promotions. That's what I watch it for. That's what we all watch it for. We want to be on the edge of our seats. We want to see if we're gonna make it. Are we gonna survive? The suspense of, is it gonna happen or is it not gonna happen? That's why I love it. Like these last like 3 or 4 seasons, I've got into it more than ever before. And it's been exhilarating. Like I think it was the Boxing Day game against Forest, and I was around my dad's for Christmas. A day later, and chose not to go to that game. That's one of the bad mistakes I've ever made, because that was insane. I remember like going around the living room with my shirt off, and I look back at it, like, what's going on? That's what it's all about. That season was something else. Like the fight backs, the comebacks, the wins that we were having at the time. It was probably one of the most exciting championship seasons I've ever seen. This season's a lot more steady and kind of calm, cool, confident performances, getting the job done, keeping solid. But no, I'm loving being a Norwich fan, and yeah, the Premier League didn't end the way we wanted, but the start of it was something else.
So when you were off training with either your peers domestically and internationally, the guys on tour, do they know anything about Norwich City? Do you represent when you're there? Are you preaching the fart ball?
As much as I can. When I was in Rotterdam last week, I had the journalist telling me all about the Norwich City results. I'm like, of course I knew about it, but I play it off. But they know I'm a big advocate of the club, and the guys sent me a Norwich City shirt with my name on it. So I took it to US Open, and I wore it for my final, my singles final, I think it was, practice on Arthur Ashe, which is one of the biggest stadiums in tennis, warming up in my Norwich City shirt. So that's got to be up there in promoting the team.
Have you ever had the New York Canaries come and visit you when you're playing at the US Open? I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
I saw a Norwich flag in the crowd once.
Yeah, every year. His name's Dave, and he always comes and he's wearing. I mean, he's got some sort of collection. Every day he turns up in a new shirt. It's like amazing. And even in France, actually, recently for Paris, there was a couple of guys there with Norwich flags with the names on the stuff. So it's great to see.
We are truly global, and I suppose when you're traveling, it's difficult perhaps to follow as if you were at home. Are you a season ticket holder, or are you just on the road too much to have a season ticket?
I'm still a season ticket holder. My brother, he probably takes the brunt of all the games and started going to some of the away games as well. But nothing really stops me. I got a bit of a telling off in Australia because before my matches, I was staying up watching the Norwich games at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Unfortunately, it was that sticky period where we were, I think, drawing a couple of 0-0s and maybe lost one or two. So it wasn't maybe the best times to be waking up in the middle of the night. But no, I love it. I'll always follow them. I think for me, the last game we went to was the Spurs game, the FA Cup.
Yeah, it was for most of us.
I'm happy to leave it there. I don't think it will ever get better than that.
Now, Alfie, obviously on a tennis court, I hope you don't mind me saying, I'll call you passionate, but sometimes it does verge on a little bit angry. Is that fair to say?
I'm probably the Emi Buendia of wheelchair tennis. Yeah,
you got a little bit of temper there.
Yeah,
are you an angry football fan?
Do you know what? No, not so much. Like more of the euphoria of winning, but when it's going the other way, maybe in the past a few mugs have been broken, but usually I'm quite cool-headed with it all. Yeah, no, it's not something that's in my control, so I try not to get angry about it. Whereas on the tennis court, I think it's something that I can do a bit better. It releases a little bit of a hot-headedness.
Well, Andy Murray's always looks pretty angry, and he's done okay as well. You guys are. Have you ever trained with Andy?
Not trained with him, but he's really good with all the guys. Like he's down at NTC practice centre in London quite a bit, and he comes and speaks to us. He'll sit and have lunches and whatever. He's a really nice, down to earth sort of guy.
He loves his football as well. I know that. Have you ever spoken to him about Norwich City?
Nah, not Norwich. I think he's too busy focused on what's happening up in the SPL, whatever it is. I've got obviously Gordon Reid, who's a big Rangers fan. So for the last couple of days, I've just been getting Rangers in my head.
Unbearable, but you'll get your own back, hopefully. How do you think this season's going to play out? Where do you think Norwich are going to finish?
What a stupid question.
I have to ask stupid questions.
Yeah, I definitely think top of the league. I mean, you see the managers, the recent couple of performances that we've had who have said that I'm not sure which one it was. He said that we were the Man City of the Championship or something like that. And yeah, I mean, if managers are saying that about us, they're certainly not just saying it for the sake of it. I do believe that you look at the stats, you look at the results, you look at even just how we're playing as a team. Even if we lose one game, what's so strong about the squad is how they bounce back. Yes, you might have one or two poor performances, but that's normal in a championship season that goes on for so long. So yeah, I've got good hopes for Norwich this season. I think we'll be back in the Premier League next year.
Who have you really enjoyed watching from an individual player perspective? Put you on the spot now.
Ollie Skip, 100%. I think he's probably for me, he's the player of the season.
Really?
Yeah, I think just the way he's given us such stability in that middle area and kind of fed through, obviously, from defence to attack. For me, he's the best player. Obviously, you got Emmy, you've got Pookie that they're just Norwich legends at this point. They are who they are. They're great. But for him to come in, I think it'd be a big loss if we didn't get him next season.
It's obviously a shame that we're having such a season and we haven't got a full Carrow Road. Talk me through your match day. What a typical match day looks like for Alfie.
It depends if it's home or away.
You go to many away games?
And I started to get into it actually the last, before obviously the matches got stopped. But yeah, a few of the Prem matches started to go to. I went to Millwall. My first away match was actually Millwall. Actually, no, I take it back. My first away match technically was Ipswich, and it was back when I think it was a 1-1. I think it was a 1-1 draw. It was nothing. I don't think it was it a draw? Was it a 2-0 win? I actually can't remember that. It was quite a long way ago. But I was sitting in the Ipswich.
Well, if it was in the last 10 years, it definitely wasn't a loss. We know that.
Yeah, that's for sure. It was in the. I was sitting in the Ipswich stand because I was with some family who were actually Ipswich supporters, and Ched Evans scored in the first 2 minutes, and I just leapt out. I think I shouted, "Come on, let's go," or something like that. And obviously I was like 8 or 7 at the time, so I didn't know. And I think so many Ipswich fans just give me daggers from every angle. But so that was my first one, and then Millwall was the next one, which was a bit of a different sort of game to experience. But no, I love it. I think my day is pretty standard. I'd normally train in the morning, to be honest. So do all the boring stuff, get it out the way. Get some chicken and chips from Morrison's. That's normally the.
Well, I was going to ask if you were a match day burger kind of guy, like.
Yeah, not in the ground, but me and my bro, we always go to Morrison's and get the little chicken nuggets and chips, but some sweets, and just I mean, you can't get better than that.
No, that's a dream. Alfie, I remember you said you were wearing your Norwich City shirt at the US Open for a practice session.
Yeah.
Have you owned many Norwich City shirts over the years? What's been your favourite shirt?
Favourite shirt? That's a good question. Do you know what? I really like the third kit for this season. Like I haven't got it. My brother's got it. So we have this pack almost where I always get the home shirt. He'll always get the either away shirt or the third kit. But I'm a big fan for that. The colours, this something about it. It's just a bit of me. Just a bit of me.
Just a bit of you. Yeah, it's got a bit of flair. Yeah, like we see on the tennis court.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you then, Alfie. If you could pick a member of the current Norwich City squad, well, I'll tell you what, I'll let you have past players as well, but you'd like to get on a tennis court and see what they've got. Who would you pick?
I've had a couple of the players said they want to have a hit. I remember Morris Leitner. He messaged me out of the blue because I think he went down to David Lloyd, just where I did my training. He was obviously doing something there, and we had a quick conversation. He was like, next time I'm here, I'll give you a message. And he obviously never returned. So we never got around to it. But I'd like to. I mean, Timmy Krul's, he's got to have good hands. He's got to have good hands in tennis, and he's proven to have good hands in between the sticks. I think I'd like to give him a go.
I think he'd have a massive serve as well.
Yeah, I was going to say he's got height on his side as well. He reminds me a little bit like you, actually.
Well, maybe. Who knows? I'm getting a bit old now. Yeah, no. So you're missing the match day. Would you look forward to the Premier League and all the return that comes with it and that global interest for Norwich City once again?
Yeah, of course. I think it's obviously it's the place to be. It's for the club. As a business, it's obviously where they want to be as well. But for the fans, it's maybe a little bit different with the atmosphere. But I think pushing the club to be in that league sustainably as well. I think we've proven the last couple of seasons how good we are as a team. We've got a great squad, and you've always got to be thinking ahead. Not even the squad, but the backroom staff and everyone around the club, the manager, the director, Webber, and being a little bit in and around. They've got such a good togetherness by the looks of it. I just think going forward we can be a more consistent Premier League team and stay there. I believe that. I think this will be. We probably screenshot this, and a couple of years we'll be back down there. But I think this will be the turning point for the club. I think we're going in the direction. Oh,
that's interesting. So you spent some time and you kind of bought into the sustainability thing. And is that something you like, that the club are doing things that way?
Yeah, I mean they've started from the grassroots of it all. Even just going back to the training facility and developing that. I mean, that is fundamentally a bigger plan and a longer term plan. They've said it for quite a few years now. This wasn't just a short term fix to quickly get the club back in the Premier League and earn some money again. This is actually taking the club to the next level, from all the way down to academy to right up to the top. And I think that's clearly shown. And the fact that Daniel and his team are still in charge after even get a relegated. I think the way the football works these days, you have a season like that, and normally they're out. So the trust is there with everyone. There's a clear, even just from like a fan point of view, there's a clear way of going about their business, and ultimately the performances are reflecting that.
That's very interesting. At this point, Alfie, Alice, who is my co-host, would normally go on to her trademark finishing move, which is, what does Norwich City mean to you, and why is the football club so special?
For me, it gave me a passion. Like it gave me a way of life, even to follow Norwich. And for me, like when I was going through that sticky period, it gave me something to look forward to at the end of every week. And then when it comes to Saturday or obviously a midweek match, it would be in my diary. I remember my diary as a kid. All it was Norwich fixtures. It's all there ever was. No homework, none of this, just Norwich fixtures. It was something that meant a lot to me, and as a personal point of view as well. Football is my heart. I love the sport, and so to be able to follow them, that's what it means.
And ultimately, Norfolk is home, isn't it? And always will be.
Yeah, it's only 20 minutes around the corner. I don't have to travel very far to go and watch them either. So win-win.
Well, Alfie, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. Good luck for the rest of the year. We'll all be following your progress, and then hopefully we'll see you at Carrow Road, a full Carrow Road, and fingers crossed for a Premier League game come August.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.